Okay, welcome back to the Motherhood series on the Wildly Capable Show. Today's the final episode, a little bit of a wrap up, but I wanted to cover a topic really specific to my own story, my heart, my passion, and that is raising resilient daughters in a chaotic food culture. If you've listened to the show before, I struggled with an eating disorder early on in my teenage years and really came to fall in love and know real food in my 20s when I was having kids, young kids. And since then, it's really been a mission of mine to instill real food values in my girls. I have 3 daughters, so that they don't fall into the same traps that I feel like I fell into. Now, I want to start today's episode by talking specifically about eating disorders. I think it's so much more than just a food understanding and knowledge. I think it can have deep roots in identity, can come from a trauma response. I believe eating disorders have both physical elements to them, but also psychological and mental and emotional. So I'm not saying this is like a foolproof method or anything like that. I just want to have the conversation about ways I'm viewing this conversation as someone who has walked a very disordered eating path and now feels like I walk in total food freedom. And it's really important to me. So I'm sure you'll hear some of that passion come out today. But that's what today's episode is going to be about. Like I mentioned, eating disorders can have a very physical element. And what I mean by that is if you come from a point of restriction to where you are so hungry, your blood sugar has dropped so low, that is where a lot of those cravings to overconsume and a lot of the foods we want to go to are those quick energy sources, those carbohydrate rich foods that can spiral you into a binge cycle. That is very much a physical manifestation, physical urges and cravings that your body is giving you because it's not fueling correctly. So my number one goal for my kiddos is to help them to understand what their body needs and why. And one of the biggest ways I lay a solid foundation for healthy bodies and healthy mindset around food is by building into their physical health, meaning I want to foster the best gut microbiome I can possible. I want to fuel their body with high protein and healthy fats. And I want to make sure that we're not on a carb cycle all the time. So this starts from the age of like 6 months, 6 to 8 months, when I'm feeding my children their very first foods. And that's how crazy the conversation gets. I really think you can start as early as infanthood because you're building your baby's foundation for what they're going to crave later in life. You're building their brain chemistry for what lights them up, what gives them that dopamine hit. And if you can build a really resilient body early on, resilient to different types of disease and illness, and really sensitive to insulin, meaning you're not flooding the body with tons of carbs and dulling that response. You're really leading with protein. You have healthy fats in there. You have a low toxic burden, meaning you're careful what types of food you're feeding them, making sure they're not inundated with tons of agrochemicals and pesticides and herbicides as much as possible, as much as you can. If you can really lay that foundation, then you're going to build a body that in the later years is really going to be more resistant, more resilient to some of those cravings of the ultra processed foods. So I start from day one. I feed my kids really, really intentionally. I go to things like egg yolk and butter and liver pate and bone broth and sauerkraut, right? Some of the weirdest, most obscure foods that even as I'm feeding my kids, I'm like, I would not eat this necessarily. But I found now that it has worked and served really well for building a strong palate. And we talked about this with an episode with Christine Muldoon a while back about how those early foods really build up your child's palate, and how even as simple as feeding them fresh blueberries, where every blueberry, every bite is a little different. Maybe one's a little more tart, one's a little sweet, one's a little mushier. Even giving them that experience versus like a grain puff manufactured, bought at the store, which every single time is the exact same. even there, you're giving your kids a different experience, right? On one hand, you're feeding them a natural whole food that's going to be a little different. You're going to have variety with each bite. On the other hand, you're feeding them an ultra processed manufactured food that's going to be the exact same every time. So thinking through your child's experiences with those early foods, not just from a nutrient profile, but also texture. What are you opening their eyes to? What are they experiencing? How are they seeing and feeling and touching the food for the first time? Okay, so that's very base level. I have found that the physical element of food cravings plays such a major role from the ages of like 1.5 to, I'm going to say, till adulthood, really. But in those early years when your kids are like, I'm hungry, I want a snack, it's so easy to fall into this cycle of carb, 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 carb that, and really it's because a lot of the processed kids foods or the quick and easy kids foods that you can get at the store are very carb and probably fat forward, right? And so it's just natural. It's like, oh, here's a granola bar, right? Here's a goldfish cracker, here's a Cheerio, right? Everything is either of grain or a carb source. And so it's just the natural, normal thing that we think. We just pull the granola bar out of our purse and we hand it to the child. And I think really asking yourself in the moment, are they, one, truly hungry? And two, if they are hungry, what do they actually need? Like, do they really need a beef stick right now? Do they need a thing of string cheese? Are they low on energy and they need some quick sugar? So like, here's an apple, right? Not even like the applesauce packet, right? Like, here's the apple. You need to bite into it. You need to chew it. You need the fiber. You need this apple. Those are questions you can ask yourself and really start to build upon in those early years, because I believe we can set our kids up to either have bodies that are really craving the wrong things or to have bodies that feel very imbalanced. And I've seen this within my own family. I have kiddos in my house who they do lean more into the like, I'm snacky, I want carbs, I don't want this protein, I want to eat something different. And then I have kids who are very like, no, give me the brisket. I don't even want the cornbread. I want the sushi and I'm going to eat the raw salmon off before I even touch the rice. Like, I have kids on both ends of the spectrum. And I can trace it back to some of the earliest experiences with food. And I don't take this as a panic moment for my kiddos who are kind of more difficult in breaking the carb cycle. It's something we're aware of and we actively work on. And it actually has gotten so much better over the years. Like, I'm so proud of the progress we've made with some of our kids. And then I'm also seeing with older kids who have more autonomy in their food choices, how that plays out. Right. So we'll get there later, but there's just a lot in those early years of building a body resistant and resilient to just mass food cravings. And I think one of the helpful things too, as your kids get older, is explaining the industry that is the food system. So it's not just anymore like, oh, the farmer grows the food and then they sell their wholesale product to the retailer who then retails it to us. And we go to the grocery store and we buy our meat, our eggs, our cheese, our milk, our butter, and our flour, right? That doesn't exist anymore. Now we have a economy that creates food that is not just for nourishment, it's for entertainment. We have a whole food group system just designed to addict you to their product and then keep you engaged through their marketing and keep coming back for more. Chips, candy, sodas, anything that is ultra processed, that is highly addictive, that is designed to light up the dopamine systems in the brain. All of those foods are not designed to be your main source of nourishment. They're just simply entertainment. They're celebratory. They are extras, right? If we were in a wartime, I can't imagine that those foods would be the things that you would be grabbing. You would be going for the most potent sustenance possible, right? So that's just a good thing to stop and explain to your kids. Like, hey, this company with the bluey characters on the label has a marketing team that is working to design foods that's going to catch your eye at the grocery store so that you pick it up and you buy it because you love those characters on TV. It has nothing to do with the nutrient profile of the actual food. That might seem a little extreme, but I have those conversations starting as early as like 5, because we'll be in the grocery store together and it'll be like a My Little Pony on a fruit snack full of sugar and dyes, and just honestly foods that if I spend $5 on a box of useless nutrients, I don't then have that $5 for the carton of eggs. So I have to explain that to my kids and say, hey, we don't have an endless grocery budget, and this food, you just like the box. Like truly, you just think the box is exciting and you're not going to enjoy the food inside of it. Let's go home. Let's print out a My Little Pony coloring sheet and you can color that. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds great. They're usually just more excited about the characters. But explaining that it is an industry, it is a for-profit system. And again, that's not like bad. Don't like demonize it, but it's not just solely there to feed the body. I think teaching kids where food comes from can be one of the most helpful, tangible ways to kind of dull out all of the noise and just quiet everything down and get back to the basics. So the way we've done this is I've taken my kids to a number of farm tours where we walk around, we see the animals. I've taken them to the farms that produce food and sell food through our herd share co-op program. We've gone to other different types of farms. We've gone to Polyface a few times. We've watched farming documentaries in our living room, just super helpful to be able to see footage of places you maybe can't travel to, but they're talking about ways in which they're regeneratively raising cattle or wheat or chickens, whatever it may be. And then they're learning this process of like, okay, this is the way that our food gets to our plate, right? There is a whole lifespan before it ends up in our fridge that we need to be thinking of and we need to be considering. And this is really helpful. I would say the ages of 5 to 9, they can really grasp this. Like they can get into the farming, they can understand the work of it. They can even understand that there's little microbes in the soil and what a healthy soil looks like versus a very nutrient stripped soil, right? Like they can process that and understand it. And it has been really helpful for me. And the way that this is, I've seen my kids, it resonate with them because they'll ask, we'll be driving down the road and we live in Ohio. And so it's not uncommon for us to drive past farming land. And they'll say, are those happy cows or are those sad cows, Mom? Or do you think those are happy chickens or sad chickens? Do you think those pigs are living a good life or a bad life? And, you know, we've driven past cows on pasture and we're like, those are happy cows. Yes, we love that. And then we've driven past literal CAFOs in Indiana multiple times. And you can smell it. You can smell it before you can even see it. And you can't see a single animal, and it's all indoors, and it's a long, straight building. And it's probably a quarter mile off the road, but you can still smell the stench as you drive by. And we say those are really unhappy, sad chickens or pigs. And, you know, they know the difference and we've pointed it out. And so that can be that can stick in their mind so that they know when they're going to eat something, they want it to have lived the best, healthiest life, not only for their own benefit, but for the animal's benefit as well, obviously. And then this is the number one reason why I even started Homegrown in the first place, is I created a nutrition curriculum for kids, specifically in the 3rd through 6th grade realm, to teach them about real food, because I was really sick of what the USDA food guideline, the My Food Pyramid type of propaganda was teaching them. I didn't feel like it was teaching them enough about where food came from and how helpful it is and how important it is to fuel your body well. It was just basically giving you rules of like, make sure your dairy is low fat and don't eat too much sugar and lean meat only. It just missed a lot of the conversation about, you know, what about sourdough and fermenting? And what's the truth about saturated fats? And what about raw milk and milk from other different types of animals, not just the cow? And how can we form a healthy, balanced snack on our own? And all sorts of things. So I'll link that original curriculum down below. And then I also created a pre-K through 2nd grade, more of an activity book, just to kind of whet their appetite a bit and teach them a little bit about how to consume the whole animal ethically, wild game versus domestic animals, again, proper preparation of grains and vegetables, talking about different fruits and seasonal produce. Like it's all in there. So I'll link that down below. But having those tools to really teach your kids about real food is helpful, because I feel like we need to have this foundation established as much as possible before they enter into a world that's going to inundate them with more information. Something I've seen over the last 10 years is just huge cultural shifts in how we're fueling ourselves. I mean, there was a huge boom of vegan and vegetarian options. Like the oat milk industry in itself is a great example of what marketing and what I might call propaganda can do. And then there was a big push for meatless meat or plant-based meat. And you saw, especially around 2020, just a big shift in how people were wanting to consume their foods and what they wanted to know about it. And it was less about, is this how my ancestors ate? And more about, what does modern technology and science have to say about the food I'm eating? And so, again, having those conversations early on with your kids is super helpful, but that's why I want to prepare my kids with this base level understanding, so that when they do come against this type of marketing, they're at the grocery store, they're seeing commercials on TV, they're seeing ads on YouTube. I want them to know, like, oh yeah, I can see right through that, or I can see what they're trying to sell me here, and that's not for me, or I know that that's not what my body actually needs. In today's podcast, we're talking specifically about how to teach our kids about real food. And I created 2 resources many, many years ago that have stood the test of time. Both our real food activity book for that pre-K through 2nd grade age group, and then also our nutrition curriculum for the 3rd through 6th grade student. If you have a high schooler, I think our real food framework is really amazing for them. Also weaves in more of the practical buying and cooking knowledge, as well as blood sugar regulation and non-toxic ways to stock your kitchen as they get closer to leaving your house. So we really have something for every age group at homegrowneducation.org. Go over, check it out. I will put a link at the bottom of this podcast if you go to our show description, and equip your family with the best knowledge and understanding of the food system and nourishing foods as possible, and set those kids up for success. I'm holding in my hands 2 really easy ways to level up your life. First is Ancestral Supplements grass-fed beef liver. This is going to be amazing to cover your nutritional bases. Think of this like your multivitamin, specifically made from a whole food in an ancestral way. We used to consume this on a regular basis, so we were getting those rich nutrients, and now not so much. We don't eat, I don't know, maybe you eat a lot of liver. I don't eat a lot of liver, but I do like taking a grass-fed beef liver, and I love taking it from Ancestral Supplements. Also, I don't know if you guys know, but they have a mineral supplement. How often are we drinking water that is completely stripped of any minerals? So we need to be taking those back in through really good mineral-rich salt and, in my opinion, a good mineral supplement. I love the ancestral minerals. They have magnesium glycinate, they have potassium chloride, sodium, of course, but they also have wildflower bee pollen in them, Atlantic kelp, ancient sea salt. This stuff is so good. I've been taking it. Joey's been taking it for probably over a year now. These 2 combined cover our bases nutritionally, and they help support our bodies go do the work that we are called to do. Go to ancestralsupplements.com/homegrown to see exactly what I'm talking about, and then use the code homegrown at checkout for 15% off your order. One of the most common things I get asked as a mom to daughters, especially one who struggled herself with an eating disorder, is how I'm raising my girls to have positive body image and allowing them to build a healthy mindset around food. And so for this, number 1, it has to start with me being healed, for me ridding myself of any of the negative body image. I have to show up as a healthy, nourished woman for my kids. Okay, I can't eat one way in front of them and then binge on chocolate when they go to bed and then try to teach them about real food. I have to start out as a healthy, strong example for them. And that's what I meant a couple weeks ago when I said that what I look like matters to my kids. I want them to see a strong, healthy, robust woman as their primary model. I need to be healthy for them. I'm literally modeling how to be an adult woman in her 30s, eating real food, moving her body, and being healthy. And for some reason, we think that that's not important, or we tell ourselves it's not possible for us. And I've gone through many different versions of healthy, and I think if you are striving to get there, you're doing worthy work. It's worth doing. So, number one, it starts with me leading by example, obviously. It's something we've talked about a lot on the show. But especially in seasons like I'm in now, where I'm more in a body recomposition phase, a fat loss phase, this has opened some good conversations to have around, well, what do you mean you're changing the way you eat? And why are you on a diet now, Mom? And what does that mean? And I've told my kids, yes, I am eating differently for a period of time. I have a goal. I had 4 babies, carried around probably 25 to 35 extra pounds of fat my body doesn't need. And you know how my body doesn't need it is because my bone structure is set. I am in my 30s, right? I'm not continuing to grow. My bone structure is set. And for my frame, I don't need that extra 25 to 30 pounds. Like biologically, I'm an animal. We are all animals. The human body is another animal. And if you're carrying excess fat that your body doesn't need, or even excess muscle that your frame that isn't right for your frame, you're going to know it and you're going to feel it. And for me, I felt it. And so I wanted to enter a journey where I leaned out and also made sure I maintained my muscle. So I have those conversations with my kids. As I've had a little bit older kids who can buy for themselves, we have conversations about, well, what does it mean if you are out to eat and you want to have a Coke? And, you go out to Subway with your grandpa and you order a soda every time. Well, you don't have soda in your house. That's probably a once a week, maybe twice a month experience. That is never something I've said, absolutely not, you're not allowed to do. I allow my kids enough freedom to make food choices on their own, and they recognize and they know when it's their everyday choice versus a choice that they're making every once in a while. Yeah, I don't store Coke in the fridge, but I don't bat an eye when we're out to eat and my kids want to have something to drink that's outside of their usual. And honestly, we like to tell ourselves that, like, if the kids are drinking lemonade or Sprite, it's somehow better. Yes, there's no caffeine, but it's all made from high fructose corn syrup and it all has dyes in it. So for a while I was like, oh, get the lemonade instead, or whatever. And then I realized these are basically the same beverages. Now, I don't let my younger kids have caffeinated beverages in the form of soda. But yeah, so that's one thing that I've been a little bit more lenient on. I make it such a rare experience that it's not there every day. And it's something we talk about. I'm like, are you enjoying that Coke? Is that good? Good. I'll never forget a time when Sophie, our oldest, experienced drinking too much Coke and had a stomach ache because she went away to camp and just really indulged. And we had a good conversation after she got home about how, yeah, drinking that every day, multiple times a day isn't what your body needs. It's not the best way to serve your body and to treat it well. When it comes to junk food, things like that, I usually strike a balance. Like if I'm buying a particular chip, say my girls are having a sleepover and they want to get fun snacks, I'm usually not buying the brand name version of the chip. I'll find a slightly cleaner, better option, and they've just come to know and appreciate that. But in some areas, it's not like it's 100% organic all the time, only the off-brand products. There is some lenience for special occasions, is what I would say. But in the everyday, I'm very clear with my kids that protein forward meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner needs to be there. And if I see you just eating half a bagel for breakfast, we're going to have a conversation about how that's not going to fuel your body well. And this is an everyday thing. It's not like I say it once and it goes away. It's all the time. I think so often we feel like, well, if our daughters grow up and at least they're not overly restrictive in a disordered eating way, then they're safe and they're good to go. And for that, I would say there's actually another end of the spectrum of like, but if they're overindulging in foods or they're not eating the right balance of foods, that's also not the goal. So we really have to strike a middle here where they know what fuels their body best, but they also can find flexibility within that framework so that they don't feel limited, like they can't ever have something outside of their ordinary, but they know that to fuel their bodies well, they have to be consistent. And again, that definitely starts with me. I can't be someone who just goes to a party and overeats every time and I come home and I'm like, oh, I gained 5 pounds. Or I can't be someone who during the holidays just has absolutely zero self-control and indulges and eats 5 cookies and all of the dips and etc. And so like I've been those before in the past, and now more than ever with little eyes watching me, I want to make sure that I'm showing them how to really be balanced and have conversations, because they'll ask me about it. They'll say like, are you not allowed to have XYZ anymore? And I'll say it's not so much about what I can and can't eat in this specific phase of my life or this specific journey I'm on. It's more about how I'm fueling my body and what's going to allow my body to reach its optimal shape for my frame. So again, lots of talking, honestly, lots of talking. Another way that I really instill a lot of this is just cooking and shopping with my girls, having them do things like going to cooking camp, but also teaching them recipes in the home, having them cooking dinners for us. Really learning how to use ingredients in the kitchen helps just reinforce a lot of what we're teaching, but also gives them the skill so that when they do leave our house, they're not like, I don't know how to make this, or I don't know how to cook. I ate really good food growing up, but I never learned how to make it myself. So now I just kind of go through the drive-through, right? I don't want them to have that experience. So I really try to make sure that they know all those skills and they have them locked in, and they find joy in that, like they have a good time. And then finally, I do believe that fitness is more of a lifestyle. It is definitely a discipline for sure, but I think the more I can create a lifestyle out of being active, the better it will translate to my kids, because I want them to see someone who's strong, who takes her afternoon walks just to get the sunlight in her eyes, honestly. Like some of this health stuff is so simple. I told Ruth the other day, our 9-year-old, like, hey, in the morning before you eat, like just try to go sit outside for a couple minutes and get some sunlight in your eyeballs, because this artificial light in here isn't doing it. And you should really reset your circadian rhythm, because I know you're having a hard time falling asleep at night, and with the time change and stuff, I think this will help. So just having conversations like that, but making fitness a lifestyle, and honestly health and wellness a lifestyle, but fitness specifically where it's integrated into my day. They see me go do my weekly workouts with my group of girls. They see me go for walks multiple times a day. They see me do the Peloton on the TV. They see me do my group workouts with my coaching program, right? And so they know that. And then funny enough, I'll walk into a room and they're doing a workout themselves on the Peloton, or they're going for a walk. And it's not even something where I'm ever like, hey, have you worked out today? Are you going to work out? Unless they've asked me to ask them that, I'm not speaking into their life in that way. It's more of just a model behavior and then watch what happens. And so obviously, if you have a kiddo in sports, this is a great opportunity to teach how fitness can be a lifestyle, because not only are they practicing and training and playing games probably, but you can even go further and say, hey, let's do some conditioning at home. I'll take you to the gym. Let's do this machine to really strengthen your shoulders so you can throw the ball faster, or let's do these exercises and these drills to really get your foot, you're stepping a little bit quicker on the field, whatever that looks like, right? So you can lean into organized sports, or you can lean into your own fitness routine. If you have other people in your life that are really into that, you guys can perhaps do workouts, group workouts with your kids. But that has been really, really helpful for us to just build that in. And the final piece of raising resilient daughters in a chaotic food culture really comes back to what I mentioned earlier in the show, which is that identity piece, and filtering very closely the type of media that they are consuming. Do not underestimate the influence of television, of social media, of YouTube. That can be the greatest influence on your kid's life when it comes to their own body image, especially girls. Even for me, that was very pre-social media era. The internet still played a major role in my eating disorder, like a major role. And so really being careful about what they're watching, Back in the day, it was like America's Next Top Model, right? But today, it's every little reel, every little YouTube short, every little TikTok. The fact that people don't even disclose whether their body has a filter on it or not, that's giving them a even smaller hourglass waist. Like the stakes are just a little bit higher because the technology is more advanced. And so pouring into their identity personally with them, speaking into them, telling them who they are, showing them who they are, giving them opportunities in life to figure out who they are, like overcoming challenges and learning new skills and what do they like and what are their interests. And then really being careful about what they're looking at and watching and consuming and then believing. Never in my life did I have someone in person in my real life that was speaking into me that influenced me more than what I saw on the internet as a young teen as it relates to an eating disorder. I would say that was very much fueled by the content I was watching. And so, we have not done this perfectly. We have actually just recently changed our mindset around technology for our kids. Maybe we'll share that, maybe we won't, but this is really important as it relates to what your kids grow up believing and thinking about themselves and about their lives. Building resilient daughters is just an everyday conversation. It's not like there's a single day I wake up and I don't think about it, honestly. I think about what I'm eating. I think about how I'm fueling my kids. I think about experiences I'm giving them, honestly. A lot of what drove me getting into hunting, as like following after Joey's footsteps and just shooting my own deer and getting a bow and all those things, is like, I want my girls to see that modeled. I want them to see what it looks like to eat field to table. Like this literal steak I'm serving you, I shot out of the woods and we butchered it ourselves. Like, we don't have land, we don't have a farm, but I can shoot a deer in the woods and I can feed you that, and I can tell you that story, and that's really powerful. So I can't claim we're doing everything perfectly, and I always worry because these episodes will live on forever, and God forbid if any of my daughters ever come across the same struggles I did. I always think, like, if I'm putting this out there, and then something happens down the line, am I going to feel like such a fraud? And I have to remind myself that, like, my efforts right now are as good as they can be. Like, I'm doing the best I can with the knowledge I currently have. And so I can't be scared of some potential outcome that I don't know about, some future trauma inflicted on them, or something I'm missing. I can't live in fear, but I'm going to try to take everything I know and everything I feel like the Lord has put on my testimony and use that for good to teach them, so they can avoid everything that I walked through as much as possible. And it's an everyday battle. I pray over my girls. I pray over their confidence, their self-image, their identity. It's a multifactorial problem that you have to address. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it, what I'm thinking through. Like I said, it starts with the babies, building their bodies to be foundationally strong, then opening up conversation when they're a little bit older, taking them, getting real life hands-on experience through farms, documentaries, cooking in your kitchen, and then having conversations as they get older about what it looks like to have times of maybe a little more indulgence or celebration or special occasion, and then what it looks like to show up every day with discipline and routine in a way that your body can really thrive. I think the best thing we can do is to teach our kids to fuel their body well so their life can be as potent as possible. And so again, the conversation always comes back to, you're fueling your body really well, you're building muscle, you're staying lean, you're staying active, you're staying flexible so that you can go do the work. Go do the work you're called to do. It's not so that you can have the body. The body is just what you need to then go have the most potent life possible, to have the most energy to pour into your hobby or your career or your children, your family, to have the most clarity of mind, to have the best balanced mood and stable mood. Like all of these things come from a foundation of a healthy body. So that's really my goal. And I try to always bring it back to that. Like it's always for, I want to be strong so that I can help lift things and move them and do the stuff that I have to do. This concludes the motherhood series. Next week, we will be back, Joey back in the studio with us. We also have some really fun upcoming guest interviews, and we are excited to keep sharing our journey of becoming wildly capable. It is absolutely a mission statement in our home, and this is part of it. Teaching our kids, our daughters early on in life what it means to be healthy and resilient against a chaotic food culture. So we'll see you guys next week.